Hey, everybody, welcome back to the final segment of tonight's episode.
Tonight's final episode
of 2020 of season 1 for I Don't Give a Flick.
Yes.
Once again, I'm your host, Jonny Blackburn, alongside my co-host, Gary Elmore and Neil Riley. We welcome to the final portion of this episode both our favorite guest and by far our least favorite guest. Let's start with our favorite guest, Ian Webb, the host of Movies So Bad They're Good, Midnight Cult Classics and Camp, the podcast and Facebook group. Ian, welcome back to the show.
What's up?
How long were you waiting to play that? How long did you have that queued?
Multiple seconds.
Okay. And unfortunately, somehow this guy got invited back. It's been a couple episodes since he's been here, so I've got a lot of pent up rage and disgust that I've got to get out. Host of the popular podcast Rhys and Jacob versus Evil, Jacob Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back.
It's actually Jacob and Rhys versus Evil, but
is it?
Yes.
You know what? It's surprising that I've been saying it incorrectly.
So good they're bad.
Movies so good they're bad.
I've been getting it wrong myself, actually.
Really?
I kept putting Rhys before myself. I'm just that humble of a guy. Yeah. Unlike some people who, are just kind of assholes and talk shit about their friends. And then, but saving the worst for last, like you said, it couldn't get any better than us tonight, could it?
That's true. Certainly, both guests that have been on the most episodes with us by far. Ian, this is probably your 12th episode, 13th, something like that. You're in double digits, man. Jacob, Jacob, I think you're
only like my fourth.
No, dude, you've done like 6 or 7, maybe. You might have done another one. I have to go back and look.
We've done a few episodes together.
Yeah, definitely remember.
And so a lot for this portion of the segment. We'll certainly go over everybody for our viewers' listening pleasure, the best and favorite topics and episodes of season 1, and kind of the trials and tribulations that podcasters go through when they're actually starting a podcast. Ian, I know you've been doing multiple podcasts for a couple years. Jacob, I know yours is in its first season as well, correct?
Correct. I think we're actually approaching our 1-year anniversary.
Awesome. Congrats, man. Congrats. But before we get into that, I do want to, let's just jump right into it, because for people listening, this episode has already been going on over an hour, so we're going to hop right in. I'm going to leave this open to the panel here. COVID has, what we've been talking about with our people actually in the industry. Now we're going to chat with people that are actually seeing the majority of that content finally coming out and being produced. Where's the future of Hollywood going, guys? Where are we at? I mean, are we going completely to streaming at this point, or are theaters going to remain erected, and are they going to be a standstill just like they've been over the last century? Let's start with Jacob. Where are you at with this, man? What do you think is going to happen?
I think it'd go either or. I mean, I kind of like the duality of what's happening right now, having it on streaming services as well as it being in theaters, because you have the choice, right? It's definitely safer to stay in your homes. I recommend everyone staying in your homes, but as soon as hopefully everyone gets vaccinated and COVID kind of disappears in the near future,
God willing,
definitely hitting the theaters back up would be amazing, and I think we can easily get back to that point. But I still like where we are streaming wise. The only thing I don't like about the streaming is the the diluted aspect of it. Like, there's going to be so many different releases. Like, even just today, just coming up with what came out this year, it just feels like either so much came out or so little actually came out. Depending on what you're which streaming services you're paying attention to, that kind of aspects. I feel like there are only 3 or 4 big movies this year due to COVID / theaters shutting down. So
and then just push back to next year.
Yeah, and then take your pick of take your pick of what kind of under the radar hits came out on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, or Shudder, or HBO Max. It's just there's so much content to absorb. On top of what might have already been in the theater. I was looking forward to Dune this last year.
Yeah, same.
And that didn't pop. And then And then some of the more worrisome aspects is like even budgets for films, right? Like Wonder Woman just came out and I enjoyed it. But there, you could tell there was like, maybe they kind of cut some corners on like some of the visual effects and the editing. And then turns out like on the WTF podcast with Mark Maron, Patty Jenkins was on there and she was talking about, yeah, they basically ran out of budget due to COVID and they just had to get that movie out. And there's even like moments in that movie where like when Wonder Woman's flying, John Murphy's Sunshine score kicks in and it surprised the hell out of me because I was like, how come Hans Zimmer didn't include like, you know, a fantastic, you know, piece of her flying, like her own flight theme or something. But yeah, that kind of stuff is a little worrisome, but I'm all for the streaming. I like sitting at home where it's like safe, but I also do like going to the theaters. So it's like, it's a give or take in some aspects, but it's mostly just like, I just want people to keep their jobs. That's the part that gets me the most is like, I want everyone to stay employed. I don't want anybody to be fired or let go, do that kind of stuff. And that's the hard part. It's like a lot of people are losing their jobs because like Hollywood's basically like half shut down due to COVID.
Yeah. I mean, with Regal being, you know, the second largest chain in the world, let alone America, that has completely closed their doors for the next couple of months. Between that and the people that actually work on these films and commercials and television and all that, it's hundreds of thousands of people worldwide that are either out of business or struggling for that work, and it's just taken such a toll. And I mean, heck, we can speak from experience on that. I mean, it's just been slower. Like we're okay, but you get to that point where you start to worry. You're like, all right, what do I need to do as a side hustle here? Like, what am I going to do as supplemental income for the time being? Ian, where are you at? Do you miss going to the theaters? Do you think that theaters are going to completely close down within the next 6 months? Like, is streaming just going to take over completely?
Yeah, I definitely miss going to the theater, but yeah, it's definitely not going anywhere. It's definitely in a hard spot right now, but I can see at least 2 years from now we'll definitely be back to regular, almost normal, probably. Yeah, especially with vaccines coming out right now, and
it's funny. It's so crazy, man. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and I mean, the ones that are open now, like Alamo Drafthouse is doing a pretty good job. I just went and saw a couple movies actually for the first time a couple of weeks ago. And they're doing a great job keeping it clean and
they've been a few times myself since they reopened. Yeah,
but I mean they have to just be hemorrhaging money. I mean they're only filling their audiences maybe 20%.
Yeah,
that's true.
Capacity, but
places like Alamo, I don't think are making money off the movie. They're making money off of the food and beverages.
Food and beverages, for sure. Absolutely.
True.
I mean, films. You have to look at films that have over the last 100 years. I mean, you know, the cinemas have been around since even before fucking Spanish influenza came around, and it also survived the rise of television as well. And theaters are still here. You know, it's, as we've said before on many podcasts, it's an event going to the theater. You know, I mean, you go as a date, you go with friends, you go if you're bored and want something to do, because it's not just the nostalgia factor, it's just a completely different element when you're sitting in the room on a large screen and you're experiencing that story with a bunch of other people and not just yourself or one other person in your living room. So, yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree. Neil, where are you at with that? Where do you think we're going to be with theaters in the next year even?
I agree with you. I mean, they are taking a hit right now, and they are hopefully slowly going to start opening back up. But it's an institution. It's not going anywhere. People make movies to be shown on the big screen. So once we get through this rough patch, we'll be back.
Full swinging, hopefully.
I mean, I think Gary, that definitely human beings are social creatures. So we'll either, we'll go back to being social creatures again shortly. I don't think that locking people up like separate from everybody has been good for anybody's soul or their mentality. And I think that we'll either go back to normal or just burn the whole motherfucker down. Either way, we'll have a lot of fun. Yeah.
Something's going to happen, and it's going to be eventful, that's for sure, whether it's positive or negative. So do you guys think, one thing that I've been reading a lot on recently is, and actually even the most noteworthy person being Tom Hanks. I'd watched an interview with him a couple weeks ago with, I can't remember what CBS reporter it was, but anyways, he was talking about how he felt that theaters obviously were not going to go away completely, but they would turn more into an event space than they had been in the past, meaning they would only be showing those big budget movies like Avengers and Star Wars, any Marvel, anything from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the superhero films, the really big budget actions. They would be doing primarily 3D, IMAX, maybe even 4DX, which still I've sat through a couple of those and I'm just like, this is too much. This is too much for me. IMAX is about the most that I can take with that.
Is that the one where the seat rocks?
Yeah. So it's like, like the rides you go to at like Universal Studios or Disney,
really
like
old,
sprays water in your face when you're going through an
contaminated
ocean.
water that's just been sitting for months with trying to be a smell. Yeah.
That's perfectly sanitary. There's nothing wrong with that in the slightest.
Sure, it's water. I bet it's really water.
Probably, yeah. And it'll squirt if you were going through a field of daisies. It'll squirt.
What was that? The Terminator? Was that 4D thing we saw in Orlando? Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of them in Orlando. Yeah, at Universal. So I don't know where. I mean, does anybody think that it's going to go that route? Or I mean, I personally don't think so. I mean, I think that'll be an aspect of it for sure. Yeah.
No, even if like the bigger chains like Regal or AMC gets shut down, like the smaller ones are still going. Like I went to the Starlight Drive-In like a few times within the last like couple of months, and they're still kicking around. They're super small too. I think
I guess drive-ins are probably really getting a lot more.
Drive-ins are
we've seen a resurgence in drive-ins over the exactly like you're saying. We've seen a huge resurgence with the drive-ins over the last 9 months in particular. And it's just been crazy. So with that being said, I mean, we've already seen, and to Jacob's point, talking about all the big blockbusters being pushed back, Dune, Black Widow. We talked, Wonder Woman and the newest James Bond were pushed back 6 months initially or more. Where now those are still being made, but what about indie films? You guys are two indie cult classic resident experts here. What do you guys think? I mean, are those just going to go completely to streaming at this point, or are we still going to be able to find enough theaters that will show these films because they think they can make a profit? Right now, I can tell you just from the industry itself, we've been talking with a lot of people before you guys came on, and they're saying that it's been difficult to find indie film work. They're getting commercials, they're getting corporate videos and big budget TV shows and movies, but nothing really indie is coming out that's going to get a lot of traction. So I don't know. What do you guys think, Jacob? Let's start with you.
Yeah, I think if that's going to like in theaters, especially now, I think it usually needs to have like a big name behind it. Like I saw Possessor in Draft House in theaters not too long ago, and that's Brandon Cronenberg's movie with Andrea Rice Burrow. So
I've heard about that.
It's David Cronenberg's son. So I think like right there and like just at face value, you're like, oh, this is a Cronenberg movie. And yeah, it has a lot of body horror aspects to it. And so I think if you have Possessor and if you've got a big name behind that indie project, I think it will be in theaters. The problem is like the smaller, more indie type stuff. I think that's just always just going to go to streaming. Like, I mean, I particularly just stick to like horror stuff. And so I'm always on Shudder, and there's been some actually pretty good, decent indie horror flicks that have been coming to Shudder, but I haven't seen any of them pop up in theaters. But it's honestly like COVID's also just kind of given a little bit more, it's kind of been exciting in the ideas and executions of horror projects like the film Host, which is kind of like a Zoom call during COVID, but with supernatural aspects to it. And it's like, oh, it's kind of cool that people are like using COVID to create more isolationist horror stories or ideas. And I think like there's also a give and take there, right? But but I think, if we're going to have indie films in theaters, I think it needs to at least have like some sort of like weight behind it, whether it's a name or if it's part of a series or something like that.
Yeah, so you're thinking that we won't see any of the production companies like even like A24 or Blumhouse or something come out with a film they bought at like Cannes or Sundance or South by or something.
I think they would. I think A24 like the.
But what if they didn't have an A-lister? Is what I'm saying.
Exactly. Probably not. But I mean, there's that I think it's A24. It's either Blumhouse or A24 that's releasing The Green Knight, which looks pretty.
I've heard of that one.
It's kind of like a medieval horror movie or dark gothic fantasy horror movie.
Is it based on the Green Knight,
but it looks really dope
from the Arthurian legends? Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
Cool.
But it's got oh my gosh, who is in this movie? Dev Patel.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. But if in Joel Edgerton, if you actually look at the trailer and stuff, it's just a cool dark fantasy take on the King Arthur story.
Right.
But like at face value, like I only recognize Dev Patel, but I couldn't tell you like whether or not it's actually like, oh, this actually has some some like a great director and stuff behind it. Directed by David Lowery though.
Okay.
But
it's nice to be able to see that. I mean, especially because like I know the Academy, it's like the Oscars, they push back, as you guys probably saw, they pushed back the award show an additional 2 months. So now it's in April. I don't remember the last time they ever did that. But normally they will have a prerequisite stating, yes, your film has to be in theaters for X amount of weeks or X amount of months so it can actually be considered for an Oscar. And now with COVID and stuff for this year, for 2020 and part of 2021, they've said it has to come out in a theater after the COVID restrictions have been lifted, for at least like a month or something. So I'm picturing us seeing at the award show, like just hearing about these films that just never heard of before, and them being nominated and be like, all right, I guess I got to see that, and then forgetting about it until it comes out to a local theater in Austin for like 2 weeks. So it's just such a stark change. It's crazy. Neil, what about you? Where do you think we're going with indie films in theaters? Is it just going to be streaming, or what's going on?
I mean, I definitely think the doorway into the streaming services is going to be a lot easier for indie films, indie projects. We talked about it earlier. So much of the indie film budgets are being taken out just on COVID-related expenses.
They're being gutted.
So that distribution money is going to be going down. Getting into the theaters is going to be harder. So I think streaming is where most of that indie film is going to go.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. And have you guys all been? Everybody's been to Violet Crown here in town, I would assume, right?
Yeah,
where?
Yeah, a Violet Crown over on. It's like on 2nd Street or 3rd Street or something.
Actually, I don't think I have.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's one of the kind of things that Jacob and Neil were talking about with the like those smaller theaters that could still be a mainstay in the cities because they specifically only do indie and Oscar films, like they do the shorts and stuff like that. So that'll be interesting to see if they're able to keep their doors open. But I don't know. I mean, they got smaller seat. They have a smaller overall seat capacity. Their menu's different. Their tickets are actually much more expensive. Normally what's a ticket in Austin goes for 12. Yeah.
It's been
10
so
to
long
12
since I
bucks.
saw one. I don't know.
But at like Violet Crown or something like that, we see a lot of those tickets be about $15. And I know some places in New York that I was reading about, they'll do upwards in LA, they do about $25 to $30. And then they'll provide you with food, but you can't choose the food. They give you like 3 options, and that's it. You don't get to go up and wait for it at the ticket counter. They have somebody who comes up to you and says, hey, here's your selections.
Crackers.
Pick one. And it's just like 2 or 3. Yeah, and they're just like, I don't want to eat anything.
Here's your slice of bread and American cheese.
Yeah, that's right. Here's a plate of nachos with
that sounds pretty good actually.
I don't know what else.
Yeah, they'll definitely take things at a loss. I don't know if y'all have been to the movie house and eatery.
Oh yeah.
No, not yet. The one up north or the one over on Southwest Parkway.
Either or. They're both really good. Like I went to the Southwest one not too long ago to see the original Halloween, and cool. Most of their time slots were just like old horror movies. It was during Halloween, but like they can easily but that's the thing is like I don't know how much at a loss that is because the tickets were only $5. So like we got in to see the original Halloween for only $5, and then you could also get the food there, and the food's really good.
That's the staple I just don't know. See with a lot of them is you see the leather recliners are coming back now. They're offering alcohol at a lot of these. It's not something that is a norm with theaters in the past up until Alamo. I'm sure there were other places around the country, but at least in Texas, Alamo was the most prevalent with making that popular. So hopefully they're able to do that, because I would hate to see those ones die away. Gary, what about you? Where do you think we're going with this?
I think that independent films are actually going to be set up better than big blockbusters.
Really? How so?
Well, I mean, if you look at like the video game world, like Steam is a platform where you can, buy all types of games, like AAA titles to small independent titles, and you can just play them all, and you don't. The game makers don't have to worry about distribution or anything like that. And I think that with movies, we're going to be heading to that, because it's going to be hard to make a movie now where you're like, I need to make $1 billion on this movie. You're not going to really have Avengers type, mega blockbusters for the next little bit here. Like Wonder Woman, I think, is a good example. They were probably hoping that movie would pull in about $1 billion at least, and I really don't think it's gonna get there. It may, but there's just it's hard to fill theaters right now. Yeah. So I think that smaller independent companies are going to be set up a little bit better, because they'll have smaller budgets that don't need to bring in that, kind of like we were talking about in the Blumhouse episode, where you don't have to, get a grand slam. You just need to get on first base. And to go to,
God,
there's no crying in podcasting.
Damn it, Gary.
You
got
don't,
Billy Bean over here.
Yeah.
Playing Moneyball.
You don't have to make $1 billion with a small independent film. You can keep it more reasonable and modest. And I think that as outlets, the market grows to meet the demand for how do I see, independent movies, you're going to get, and we already had such a good streaming service set up with like Netflix, and now you've got
Hulu and Amazon,
Shudder, Disney even. Plus, all that crap. Yeah. So there's the platform is already there. So I think that those smaller budget movies are going to, I think they're going to be not only just fine, but probably the way of the future for the next little bit here.
Yeah, and I don't think streaming services were ever in any. I mean, the amount of people watching films right now is just at an all-time high.
Yes,
It's broken every record within the last 12 months that's been set prior.
That's what a record is.
That's right. So crazy enough, the biggest blockbuster of the year before Wonder Woman came out, actually even to this date, was Tenet. And do you know how much they grossed?
I'm going to say $220 million. Guess.
That's way over, but a good guess.
Okay,
$50 million domestically. Domestically, they've grossed only $50 million when they were anticipating within $600 million at the low side.
Right. So you're not going to see those kind of movies anymore that are just astronomically high budgets.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing in a lot of ways.
It makes me sad, man.
But
it makes me real sad.
Why does it make you sad?
To not have those types of movies anymore?
Yeah.
To have the option?
But it's going to be good, because you're not going to have such a color by numbers kind of movie. You're going to have movies that are willing and able to take more of a risk, because
risks,
they're not going to have to appeal to everybody. One of the big critiques I've had of movies lately is that they become so broad, but also so shallow.
Right.
Like there's some movies that do a good job. Like I think Marvel, by and large, did a really good job of being very broad and still being interesting. But there's so many movies that are like, you'd never have a movie like Die Hard made today, because it'd be like PG-13, and it'd be like, well, we want to appeal to not young kids, but probably like 12 years and above, and so you'd lose a lot of that yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, and it'd be like, yippee-ki-yay, poopy head, or maybe not quite that bad.
Yippee-ki-yay, you pee-pee pants.
Yeah, but I like movies that appeal to a narrow segment, and Ian and Jacob, I know you both have talked about movies that are very very deep. Like what was that movie? I can't remember who brought it up, but it was like a movie about a kid that's like killing his parents or something, and it's off scene. Yeah, and like
yes.
yeah,
Found.
Found.
That's right.
And that was a really horrific movie. Like that, most people would not want to see that movie, but there are some people that would. And
Ian's like, oh, nobody would want to see that movie?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they want to see it?
No. I did not enjoy it. I was talking about how much I hated it.
Right,
or
but
how
you
much
watched.
it terrified me.
You did still watch it.
watched it, right?
I didn't know anything about it.
Okay.
I was very shocked.
But Gary, how can you? How for somebody like you that loves Star Wars, that loves Star Trek, that loves the Avengers MCU,
Well,
you
the
feel
thing
like
is,
it's a good thing to do that?
I hate what they've done to Star Wars. I think Star Wars now is crap
But
because of that very reason.
I think Mandalorian's brought it back a lot. And I think that
Mandalorian
also,
is, yeah.
But that's TV series. I mean, that's
And
a
they-
little different.
and-
but still, a lot of those episodes look and feel like more like movies than ever before, right?
They
I
do
mean,
that.
They're beautifully produced, yes.
yeah. And
But
I think
the-
that's where TV's going. Is it's like we're no longer gonna like. I mean, movies will always be movies, but even TV is getting into the realm of like, I can't tell if I'm watching a serialized like film series or an actual TV show
Just
because
long
it looks,
series, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good thing for the industry because, you know, I don't know what the production costs on The Mandalorian are. It certainly doesn't look cheap or feel cheap, but it's much less than what a movie would be.
Absolutely.
And
For
so,
sure.
you know, you can take risks saying, you know what, this isn't good. This is only going to appeal to maybe 12% of people, but we don't need to appeal to, 75% of people. So let's do it. Let's tell this story.
Yeah.
And I think that gives you, as not only an audience member, but a director, a writer, an actor, so many more interesting avenues you can take. Because, like The Mandalorian, for example, if 30% of people hate it because little baby Yoda ate some eggs or whatever, spoiler alert,
He's a murderer.
he's a murderer. That's okay. Because a lot of people
Well, this is the way.
still like it. Yeah, this is the way. Genocide.
I mean, the screenwriter in me certainly agrees with you, absolutely. But the nostalgia and just the kid in me does not agree with you at all. Like, I still think there's a happy median that we can find, and I don't want it to get to the point where streaming services have taken such a control on the market that we see cinemas disappear across the country by 50%. I don't like they're just closing their doors because they don't have enough content to put out. I don't want to see that. I still want there to be a happy balance like we had before COVID. And I know that's the way that it was going before this even happened.
I mean, like, I don't think that they're going to be closing their doors for lack of content. If anything, there's going to be a glut of content like you kind of had with the...
So you think more indie films are going to be going to theaters then?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I thought you were just saying it was just going to be streaming.
But I think that, like, you're not going to see a theater that's got 14 screens and they're all playing the same movie. I think you're going to have, there might be, this movie in theaters 1 and 2 and this movie in 3 and 4, So you're going to have a much more diverse kind of field to go check on, which is kind of sad because one of the cool things about, like, the 2020s or 2020 was that we all had kind of a moment because we all watched Tiger King about the same time. So that was something we could all kind of come together and talk about, which, like when Gone with the Wind came out or something like that, everybody went to go see that.
Well, TVs, not everybody had them. Remember our 1960s episode?
Right.
70% back stats were saying that 70% of people went to see at least one movie a week back in the 1920s and the 30s and the 40s, until TV became prevalent. So, I mean, it was a different time period back then.
I mean, like, everybody had a shared event. Like,
okay, yeah.
Back when there were 3 TV stations, everybody watched I Love Lucy.
Sure.
The
Sunday night movie on ABC,
right. But now
the Disney.
You might see something and you're like, hey, did you see what happened on... I don't know, Squidbillies or something?
Queen's Gambit or something? Or...
I'm like, I've never even heard of that. What the hell is that?
The public consciousness was definitely talking about Squidbillies.
Yeah.
Is that show even on anymore? I've seen maybe 5 episodes.
Yeah.
I don't watch adult.
I know Aquatine is still going. I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Jesus, dude.
But I mean, like, yeah, so I think that's good in a lot of ways, but you also kind of lose that scuttlebutt or water cooler talk, that because, like, you couldn't... So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that progresses, but I think that there's going to be a big fracturing of movies and films, and not saying that they won't come back together. And I don't think that they're going to leave like movie theaters, but I think that you're going to not see a lot of big budget films for a while.
Interesting. So you're of the belief, and you're the minority on the, well, maybe not. We'll ask the table in a second, but that stories are going to start becoming good again. They're going to start becoming more in depth and about things we haven't seen before, instead of the same crap Hollywood's been vomiting out over the last 2 decades.
I think that it's going to get more colorful in terms of like you're going to get some really bad shit like Skins. That's just like ridiculous. But you're also going to get some really good stuff like Mandalorian, because people, you're not going to have to like make movies by committee.
You know what was really interesting, and I don't know if you guys ever did this, when Breaking Bad was at its height, back in the late 2000s and such, early 2010s, Alamo Drafthouse actually used to show every episode Sunday night. They wouldn't show it live because they couldn't, but they could show it after it aired by an hour. And every weekend they would do multiple showings of it, and it would be to packed houses. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be interesting if you saw? Yeah, I did that for season 4, I think.
That was a good season. It
was a great season.
Season 3 and 4, that was the best.
That was the pinnacle.
A lot like The Next Generation.
But, and we'll get into that. But wouldn't that be interesting if they went ahead and started doing that in theaters? Like maybe with The Mandalorian, they're like the episode 1 this week, episode 2 this week, episode 3, and you started watching TV series in the movie theaters, and something like The Mandalorian that is big budget. I would go to that. That would be really fucking cool. Because
I mean, they also did that with Game of Thrones too, right?
And Game of Thrones,
like the first couple episodes of like one of the seasons in theaters or something like that.
Yeah, they had done that at Alamo and Violet Crown did it too.
And because it's so, there's something so, I think, basic and innate in humanity to sit with other people and experience the same thing. Like Jonny, you and I went, and Neil. We all went to go see Pillow Man in New York.
That's right.
And there's like a shocking moment in it, and to be in a theater,
everybody jumping at the same time.
You got 600 people that all react to a thing at the same time. Yeah.
Oh.
And the same things happen in movie theaters. Like I remember watching The Patriot. And there's this scene where this cannonball kind of comes at the screen, and I jumped, and I was watching with my dad, and he jumped, and like everybody in the audience was kind of like, this was before the days of 3D and crap, and like it was just it's a really, that's what movies are for. I think that's
shared experiences.
What plays, what movies, what any sort of artwork is for that shared bit of humanity.
Sure.
I mean, especially with the Marvel films or superhero films in general, right? Because we're cheering for our heroes, we're cheering for those moments. I mean, it's like I've never gone to a quiet Marvel screening, right?
No.
People are always having a blast. People are always jumping up and cheering. Like, I can't imagine not watching Endgame in theaters first and getting like those specific moments of hearing like I am Iron Man and the entire theater just erupts,
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. It's like, I prefer those experiences to just like sitting at home and getting it, because it's just like, even after the season finale to Mandalorian, I was like, I want to see people's reactions. So like, I even texted some friends who hadn't seen it, and I was like, can I watch y'all watch it?
Can you stream me watching this?
That's a different thing what I'm talking about.
I've been watching people doing react videos on YouTube lately, like reacting to classic movies that they somehow haven't seen yet.
Some of that stuff is so good. Like one of the few times I've been to the IMAX screening. I did it for the 2014 Godzilla movie, and like the IMAX. It was at the AMC Barton Creek, and they had a countdown, and it started at like 10, counted down to 1, but every single number was Godzilla's footsteps getting closer and closer. And in IMAX, it was just like just thunderous. And then as soon as it hit 1, you just hear that Godzilla remake roar, and fucking the theater just erupted. And it hadn't even hit the movie yet. The movie hadn't even started, and the theater erupted at Godzilla's roar. That's just a cool experience.
And then you see Matthew Broderick's shining face, and you know you're.
Oh no, this was the this was the Gareth Edwards.
The not as bad one.
The not a lot of fish one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to change gears for a second, because due to the pandemic and where we're currently at, and with budgets, we were talking budgets with a couple crew and cast members earlier. So I want to go through and let's just give one suggestion so we can keep other genres open for people. Neil, I'll start with you. What genre or type of film do you think is catered to, or just the perfect mold to survive filming in a quarantine state?
I mean, to me, I think not only have we already started to see a surge of it, but I feel like we are going to continue to see a surge of pandemic-related movies, not only because it's current, but it's going to be easy to film when everything is already shut down. Everything is already working under a
Everyone's
pandemic
wearing their masks.
Type situation. So I think those are going to be what's going to be thriving here in the near future.
Absolutely. And it's funny because we were actually talking with two Texas-based actors, Ian and Jacob. We were talking with our friends Amy and Carlton a little earlier, and they were talking about just, in between takes, you have to take your mask off to obviously deliver your lines. But that's funny that Neil brings it up. In a pandemic film, would you have to do that? If you're going to the grocery store and you're trying to be as genuine, as an authentic as possible to a pandemic film, wouldn't you have your mask on in the store?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like,
yeah.
Is that going to make line delivery harder? Is it gonna take away from the appeal of A-list actors because you can't see their full face? Like, I don't know. That's a good point.
It'll be like superhero movies where it's like, oh, the moment where the finale, they have to take their mask off. Oh no, he got dirt in his eye. He's got to take his mask off.
Exactly. So Ian, what about you? What genres do you think are, or types of films do you think are perfectly molded for a quarantine pandemic style?
Well, yeah, that was definitely a good answer. I was reading the itinerary you sent us, and you mentioned period pieces.
Right.
And that, I didn't think about it before, but now I'm really thinking about that. That's definitely a big one. Like, for both before COVID, where everybody was like, oh yeah, that's back when people, back when life was like that in 2019.
Yeah. Or like even a movie from the 80s, like, they're not walking around with that.
Yeah, exactly. But then after all this is done, like say 10 years from now, there'll be all these movies about during the COVID stuff, and everybody's just like, yeah, I was there for that.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that definitely is a big one.
Yeah. Gary, how about you?
Probably.
Well, since you asked that question, I've been trying to think, to the sort of the last major events like, World War II or Vietnam, something that really profoundly impacted, everybody's everyday life. And you did have a lot of, World War II movies, or you had a lot of war movies, after, the war was done.
Sure.
And I think that one of the things that movies do is they help sort of the general psyche have a catharsis for the event, because it's been a very traumatizing event for everybody.
Yeah.
In the whole world. It's the shared trauma. So I think that there will be pandemic movies, but I think on the flip side of that coin, you're going to get a lot of movies that talk about that are an escape from that are like adventure movies, like I think like Lord of the Rings, kind of like we're going on a quest, we're going to be out in these wide open spaces, we're going to not be I think that you're going to have sort of a reverse parabola. Like, you're not going to have a lot of movies in the middle that kind of talk about it a little bit. You're either going to have the movies that really focus on the pandemic, like a Contagion movie,
right?
Or you're going to have movies that are just totally not about that at all, because people want to get that out of their minds.
I think more along the lines of what I'm talking about is not necessarily what we think people are going to want to see, but what's going to be seen. Because like, think back to when we talked with everybody earlier, and they're saying COVID protocol has not only tightened up, but they've added more to the actors and the crew, like getting all the tests and being 10 feet away from each other when the camera's not rolling and stuff like that. So if you do like a large budget action film like that, you can't really do that with 1,500 extras. Like Braveheart took 1,500 to 2,000 people and 40 days to film the battle at Falkirk. You know, you can't do that during the I mean, you could, but you'd get sued and your insurance would be through the roof. So I guess more like what genres would be able to cater towards a smaller cast, maybe utilizing Zoom calls or people quarantined inside a house or something like that. I guess that's kind of more where I was going.
What was that movie that came out, I think it was 2 years ago? It had Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones at Astra. Was that the one where he was trying to find his dad?
Yeah. You saw that one.
That was.
I didn't want to sit through that one.
I think I had that little card that let me see free movies, and even then it was a waste
Movie
of time.
Pass. I missed that. $10 a month. So
terrible business model. But anyway, like that kind of a movie that's just really tightly focused on one person. Because there were other people in the story, but like it really was mainly Brad Pitt kind of going around the stars.
Singular character storylines.
Like real tight on the character storylines.
One-man shows.
Yeah,
just a 2-hour feature about
hey,
Danny
maybe
DeVito's one-man show.
A movie of Gilligan's Island. Who knows?
Hey, that would work actually. I mean, you talk about
Castaway 2, Castaway year.
Wilson returns.
Shout out to the lady, and I'm sorry I can't remember your name, that played Mariana. She recently passed away.
Oh, did she? No way.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's sad.
I think she was 89. So she lived a good long life.
Yeah, good long life. Jacob, what about you? What genres do you think are going to be able to cater towards the pandemic restrictions?
Oh, I definitely think superhero films and horror films. Superhero films mostly just due to
okay.
Yeah, I think mostly because everyone wants something a little bit more hopeful, a little bit more like I can't believe I've never missed Marvel before. Like after Endgame, I was kind of that was peak Marvel for me. I was just burnt out on Marvel. I was like, I don't really want to see another Marvel movie for like a couple years. It was like the Assassin's Creed games, right? Sure. It's like, can y'all stop releasing them like every year and just let me chill out once in a while?
iPhone every 2 years. God,
and Call of Duty, all that stuff. Yeah, let me miss you. Let me reflect on how much I love those movies, you know. And honestly, COVID's been the best time for Marvel because I am so pumped for WandaVision. Like I want that shit just injected into my veins. And it's mostly because I'd miss like seeing my favorite heroes like jump around on screen and like, you know, like just it's just goodness. It's just like it's nice seeing like good triumph over evil sometimes. Yeah. And I mean, I even got a little bit of that with Wonder Woman 84. And it's just like, man, I just want some. Give me the Black Widow. Give me Winter Soldier and the Falcon. On the opposite spectrum of that, horror. Like this is like the easiest time horror could thrive in theaters.
Horror is about to take over.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's about to take over everything.
No, I think people.
What?
People's lives are horror. They don't want to see any more.
It doesn't. I think you're misunderstanding the question. The question is not what do people want to see. The question is what films can cater to the COVID restrictions easiest.
Oh,
yeah. So
that's why I rephrased my question earlier.
Okay. To sort of go back to January, right? Invisible Man came out. That movie was made on a budget of $7 million. It made over $146 million.
Yeah, small cast.
That movie destroyed the box office in terms of like what it did. And then even just recently, the Freaky movie with Vince Vaughn, where it was basically Jason body swapping, right? That movie made double its budget while in theaters. Like this is like the perfect time for horror to take over, as long as you've like got a good horror movie. If it's a terrible one like Bye Bye Man or some shit, yeah, that stuff will just die.
I don't want
to. But if you put in a good horror movie in theaters, I think it'll thrive, mostly due to its like low budget.
I would like to point out that it's only been 1 year since Invisible Man came out.
Yeah, it came out in January. It's crazy.
Yeah, great movie, man.
Yeah,
I was probably one of my top 3 favorite movies I saw last year.
Yeah, it was a great movie. But it's wild to think that movie made so much.
Okay, shut up, Gary. I want to talk about Neil Breen. That was our last episode.
Yeah.
The crappiest movies of 2020. I'd have to agree with you, man. I mean, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but yeah, I mean, horror you had talked about the horror film that had just come out. You said it was called Host, right? The one that was completely a Zoom call.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how easy you have 2 or 3 crew members in there with the actor. You know, may have an AD and then somebody getting some sound or B-roll footage, maybe. And then it's all
done
online.
so well. Yeah, and it was done really well. It wasn't like Unfriended or one of those other dumb ones.
Think about how many of those you have. Think about how many of those in the past that we've seen with horror films. Most of the time, horror movies have a really small cast and crew. Anyways, they're typically about people isolated in some, like Evil Dead, all isolated in a cabin. You know, Babadook, all in one person's house.
Yeah.
And it's just so few locations. It's minimal people. So I think that horror is they're going to take such a stranglehold over the film industry for the next 12 months until this vaccine is rolled out completely and the restrictions are loosened.
And even on streaming too, because I mean, didn't Blumhouse release 3 movies at once not too long ago?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. I haven't gotten around to watching them, but that was kind of impressive to see that, like, as Amazon Prime, them actually like using it as their showstopper. Like, hey guys, we want you to stop streaming everything else and watch these 3 horror movies we released. And it's like, that's dope. It's like it's cool seeing horror like held to a higher regard on like these streaming services and stuff.
It's nice.
And then
too.
Same thing with Netflix with like Haunting of Hill House and Haunting of Bly Manor.
So let me ask you this, and I think I know what Johnny's answer is going to be, but with streaming services, one of the major differences you have is that you don't get to know the numbers. So you have no idea what the box office receipts are. And I know Johnny's a big number guy. Like he likes stats. He likes like MVP trophies, things like that.
Accolades.
Do you think that is going to make a difference in how we all kind of do various podcasts of reviewing films and how we review films? Because we're not going to know if, a film that's released solely on streaming, was watched by a really wide audience. Whereas with a movie, you can see, okay, it made $800 million. Almost everybody saw this, because you might not know, like, if, whatever's released, if a whole bunch of people saw it or not.
I don't necessarily know if that's going to tilt my head in that direction. Typically, the stuff that I see, if I like a trailer, I mean, I'll just sit on YouTube and watch trailers, honestly, for like an hour or 2 at night when I'm just kind of winding down. But the only time I get during Oscar season, I'll watch typically everything that's nominated, just because I enjoy making it a competition and seeing what is coming out. I think as a filmmaker, for like, especially for me, you and Neil, like looking at those films, even if we don't agree with what's being nominated or we don't really necessarily like if it won Best Picture, or maybe we do or whatever, it's helpful to know what is currently trending, so we kind of get in that thought process when we're trying to sell. Once you sell, then you can start creating things that have never been seen before. Once you get notoriety and people pick up your stuff.
Yeah.
But sorry, Neil, what about you? Where are you at with that?
As far as being able to judge the film's release.
Gary, can you clarify the question?
In terms of like we're not going to know the box office of movies that are just streaming, so we're not going to know like which ones are really popular and which ones aren't popular, and how that will affect us as you, me and Johnny as people that make movies, and then all of us as people that review movies. So like how that affects our reviews of the movies, just without the knowledge of how popular they are.
I mean, it's obviously going to affect us. Prior to all this, the 3 of us, we would probably go see all these movies in theaters together, and then spend an hour in the parking lot talking and discussing the movie afterwards. Now, something comes out on Amazon, and I watch it, and I tell y'all to watch it. Well, Gary may not have Amazon, so he's not going to stream that right now. Or,
right.
I don't know, because every single TV station now has their own streaming service for all their shows. So you almost have to pay more than you were paying for cable a year ago to watch everything that you want to watch.
Yeah,
so it is going to be more difficult. It is going to be more difficult tracking that. It is going to be more difficult getting a consensus of what people are actually talking about, what people are actually thinking about these movies that are being released. So it is going to be challenging for sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of my concern, that we're going to lose that, I guess, common thread of like what we're talking about, or the social discourse. All discussing the same thing. Ian and Jacob, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mostly agree. Everything is just so divided now. Like it kind of annoys me because I'm always using Shutter or like any other TV service, and like my LG TV doesn't even have those apps. So it's like that's the thing that annoys me the most is how divided all this stuff is. Like some TVs have these apps, some don't. Like my PS4 doesn't have the Shutter app. My LG TV doesn't have the Shutter app. My PS4 has the HBO Max app, but my TV does not have the HBO Max app. And it's just like, what the hell? It's just like, where am I going to go for some of this stuff? And then, yeah, just like, if I want to have a watch party with friends or something, it's just like, okay, guys, we got to make sure that this person has this streaming service. Somebody want to give a login, and then that just becomes a whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
share the logins where you can. Ian, how about you?
I have nothing to add. I agree with what everybody's saying.
I guess we did. I guess we're all pretty long winded on that. So I want to jump over really quick to films that we had seen this year, and just for time's sake, Jacob and Ian, I'm just going to pose this question to you guys. Gary or Neil, if you have a film that you absolutely want to talk about, you're like, this is going to reach cult status, jump in, please. But Ian, we'll start with you. Can you name one or two films that you had seen this year that you're just like, Jesus Christ, this is not big budget, but good God, it's going to be a cult classic here within the next, decade? Did anything pop out to you that you've seen so far that came out this year?
Definitely. There's two I've seen. One lately I actually saw. I knew nothing about this movie other than it was made by Spectre Vision, the production company, which is which was founded by damn it, I'm blanking on his name. The guy who played Frodo on Lord of the Rings.
Elijah Wood.
He started a production company called Spectre Vision, which is just amazing, and that's all I knew about it. So I went and I risked getting COVID to see this movie I've never heard of and knew nothing about it. It was called Arch Enemy, and it was badass. And so it's already kind of cult feature or cult status because.
Oh, is that the superhero one?
Yeah. I've been seeing ads on it. It's I've been seeing ads, the production company, the producers who did Mandy, and I've talked about Mandy on here a couple times. I really love that movie. And actually, I mean, if that movie wasn't already 2.5 years old, I'd definitely be answering that question with Mandy for sure. But same producers who did Mandy did this movie Arch Enemy, which is really dope. Sweet. And it's to the point. Actually, I was going to answer a couple of questions ago, but I'll put it for this one. This movie Arch Enemy, it was also at the same time streaming an online streaming event where you'd have to actually pay tickets to. And actually New Year's did the same thing with Mandy. Alamo Drafthouse did a online little fun thing where it's a watch party, and it actually sold out. It had so many people, and they paid $35 for online tickets to sit at home.
For one film?
It sold out.
Fuck.
How do you sell out an online watch party?
I don't know.
Maybe the server could only hold so many people watching it. I don't know. Before it crashed.
Like that.
But it was crazy.
That's nice. All right.
Yeah, so that seems to be kind of where movies are going in the future with these online events. And this is for a movie that a very few people have even heard of. But the people who have heard of are so loyal to it.
I'll have to put that in the queue.
Yeah, another movie also by Spectre Vision that actually came out late 2019. I just saw in July was Color Out of Space.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, it's another Nick Cage movie.
You think that's going to be another one that's going to be a cult classic in 10 years?
I think, I mean, it's hard to say that it's cult right now because it's so recent.
Well, sure. I mean, whatever your prediction is.
But, what I was going to say is, just the production company alone and Nick Cage being in both of them, and they were only limited releases,
sure,
like already have that cult status, and people are seeing these movies based on nothing, just that, like, yeah, I love this production company, and I love that Nick Cage is in it. I want to see it no matter what, and yeah, so just by, I guess,
awesome, man,
name alone, like, especially in my Facebook group, like, people like are just all about these movies.
If they're all talking about it, then you know it's going somewhere for sure. Jacob, how about you?
I mean, I've mentioned Host quite a few times. I definitely would recommend that one as being a cult classic. I mean, it's also just a very timely film. It's definitely one we'll probably look back on as the 2020 horror movie, basically. Invisible Man is another one. That movie is a blockbuster, but I still think in 10 years that movie will be looked back on like fondly for either like reviving the Universal monsters or even or either just being the only good Universal monster movie for the next 30 years. Who knows? Like, I would still love to see those monsters come back, but if Invisible Man is the only good one, or if they do an Invisible Woman after that, which I think they will, and hopefully it's just as good, if not better. Like, I think that movie will be right there. Surprisingly, I think I hate the name of the movie, but Underwater, I enjoyed. That movie made like no money at the box office.
Was that the Kristen Stewart one?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the creatures, but it's a Lovecraft movie.
Okay.
Yeah. The creatures are very much inspired by Lovecraft, and there's a specific one at the end that shows up, and it's just it reminds me of watching like the 80s sort of aquatic movies like, Leviathan, Deep Star 6, The Abyss. It's very much a callback to those films, and the production design is really cool. Of course, there's like some dumb character moments, and like some of the writing is real dumb. But I just love the look of that movie, and it's currently one of the bigger movies on HBO Max, which was surprising to me. Possessor, Cronenberg's new movie by Brandon Cronenberg, not David Cronenberg, but that movie as well.
Glad you clarified.
Yeah, but then if we were to sort of go like kind of what Ian was talking about, like movies in the past couple years, I think like Krampus has already hit a cult classic for me. Like I watched that
4 years ago,
Christmas.
5 years ago. Yeah, when it came out.
Yeah, I watch that movie every Christmas now. It's a Christmas staple to me, and I know several friends who also watch it like around the same time. And because that movie still holds up really well, it's a great dark comedy horror film.
Sure.
In the same vein as Trick or Treat. But yeah, like it's been a pretty good year for smaller horror movies.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's been nice to see those, like we had even to allude to Gary's point, to see the indies that are coming out and making a name for themselves. Maybe this is the time to do it, since they're all on the streaming services and we can't go to the theaters. So
Batman is reaching pretty good.
I did watch Fat Man the other day, and that actually was pretty funny. So changing gears really quick
Burton
though.
Batman?
No, Fat Man, the new Mel Gibson movie where he plays Santa and he's fights an assassin. Switching gears really quick though, I do want to talk about really quick before we kind of get towards the end of the episode, we're all podcasters on this group. This is why I saved this crew for last, because I did want to. Gary had mentioned he wanted to chat about everybody going through their own podcast, how they had found listeners, or if is it more important to just talk about what you want to talk about, and hopefully the viewers will come at the end, or what are the trials and tribulations that you've had to go through when making this. So Ian, I do want to start with you, just a brief answer on this, since we're limited for time right now. But since you've been doing multiple podcasts and you just started your own right now, again recently, you've been doing it for a couple of years, what's been the most difficult thing for you guys when starting the podcast? Is it technically or content wise? What pops into your head?
Yeah, I'm having some trouble with technical stuff. It's pretty much, I guess, recording multiple people online, like what we're doing right now, was a little bit more over my head than I thought it would be.
It's a challenge.
Gary, 9 guests later.
because I've recorded a few more than a couple episodes and lost them. And so yeah, I've got my co-host mad at me, and just getting multiple people available at the same time.
Yeah, the scheduling is one of the most. The scheduling is one of the most difficult things, especially when you have more than one guest on.
Yeah,
especially
like 9 of them.
Like 9, yeah. Like when we had our COVID in Hollywood Part 2 and tonight's episode, we had tonight. Counting us, we had 9 people on total, and then COVID in Hollywood Part 2 is, I think, 10 overall, 10 or 11 altogether. And it's tough, man. Yeah, and you have some people that, they sometimes they don't show up at all, so they show up late.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, lots of technical difficulties, man. And I've noticed certainly Discord has been the easiest one. It seems like for Gary.
Yeah, the easiest free one, I think.
Yeah, that you've got for sure. So Jacob, how about you? What's kind of been the most difficult thing for you and Jacob? You and yourself.
Me, myself, and I.
You and Rhys to get yours off the ground.
Yeah, funny you mentioned the scheduling. The scheduling has been the hardest part. Even with 2 people, it's just trying to line things up because our schedules are so just off track sometimes because he does work nights occasionally while I work strictly day. So it's just finding the right time to balance that type of stuff. Content-wise, sometimes we'll go on a little too long tangents about stuff. Paying attention to like my syntax, my talking when I'm actually recording is like making sure I'm not going like
this, that, yeah,
like or even just like dead silence, because which like I've already done a couple times on this podcast today where it's just kind of dead silence because I'm trying to think through what I want to say, but I can't say it fast enough, and so I just sit there. And it's just dead silence, and that stuff's always the hardest, and it's even can be a little bit more annoying to even edit out because it's like you got to look for that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
But yeah, content wise, it's just mostly tangents. We had started. We recently recorded and reviewed the Halloween franchise. Aside from the Rob Zombie remakes, we went through and did all the other Halloween films. And we started at the beginning of October, and we meant to have it done by October 31st. We only just now finished. I'm editing the last episode, and we just recorded the episode because we just haven't been able to line up, and we just haven't been able to review them in the correct process like we had planned. But it was a ton of fun, and yeah, we just go on some long tangents because at one point we'll just talk about video games for a little while, and it's like, wait a second, let's all right, let's go into the movies now. Yeah.
Neil, what about you?
I think for me, the most difficult thing I've had as far as getting this podcast going is really not knowing the effect it's had. I really don't know who's out there listening. We're on multiple different platforms, but I haven't seen the metadata to say how many people have listened to us, how many hours it's streamed. So, I could just be talking to this microphone with you guys and no one wants to hear it. But, obviously, I'm hopeful that there's people out there that enjoy taking the time to listen to us talk about stupid shit.
Well, Neil, we've had 277 downloads since we started publishing. Our number one platform is Apple Podcasts, and our number one episode is our Halloween special.
Oh, yeah, guys. Dangerous antagonists or villains you don't want to meet in a back alley. That's right. That was a good episode. Gary, what about you? Hell, I mean, you're...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I think you're the most involved,
Just
honestly.
not blowing my brains out every day. So
Jesus, dude. The podcast makes you want to do that or other things?
So podcasting is really fun, but I do the editing on it, and that can certainly be challenging because it... one of the things I've learned to do is to really take good notes while I'm doing the editing because it saves me a lot of time from having to go back and listen. Because this tonight we've been recording for almost 3 hours, so it's going to take it takes a lot of time out of my work to have to just go back and make a note somebody coughed at 1 hour and 58 minutes rather than having to scour through every single thing, and then I can listen to it at a faster speed to listen for, did we have anybody have a long pause? So for me, taking good notes on on what's happening when it's happening really, really saves a lot of time in post-production. And it makes my work as the editor kind of go a lot faster. So if you're doing a podcast, Ian and Jacob, I would highly recommend just, open up just a notepad document and take a note when something goes wrong, or like if you want to add a special effect, like a sound effect or something.
Notate it.
Yeah, just pop it in there.
Whistle.
Yeah. That really helps save a lot of time, and then balancing in how I want it to sound, the different voices, and kind of dialing in the mixture that I want for the volume and the levels. And I think that took, maybe 13 or 15, maybe 18, maybe 26 episodes. I don't know. I'm still working on it.
We're on episode 26.
So yeah, I mean, it
fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It takes a long time to kind of get that going, but once you've got that groundwork, it makes it a lot easier to kind of just put it on there and listen to it for content.
I think the biggest thing for me has just been trying to I've been looking at it from the more kind of the business side, kind of like the marketability of us as a whole. That's why we're on. So for those of you that are curious of starting your own podcast and have actually listened throughout this entire episode,
congratulations.
Congrats.
By the way,
we're on Spotify, Pandora, Apple, Google Play, all that, because we're on Buzzsprout. Now, you can get on those individually by yourself, no problem, but at least with Buzzsprout, you can go on, and every episode that you download, it will then transfer all of that data and those episodes to those individual podcasts automatically, and it will keep all the stats for you, the metadata, as Neil was referring to, and we can tell what city and country, country and even city that those downloads are coming from, what major networks, and we only pay... It's only like $20 a month, I think.
It's not it doesn't break the bank.
It's not too bad.
Our number one city, by the way, Minneapolis.
I remember that, and there's like Russia. We have a fair amount of downloads from, right?
Minneapolis is number one. Then Centennial, Colorado.
Okay.
Let's see. There is a Clichy, Ile-de-France.
Okay.
So, and then there's Russia, Bangkok, Taipei. So those of y'all listening in Bangkok, probably mispronouncing that, but shout out to you guys.
Yeah. If you want to get on the episode, come on, somebody.
Yeah.
You can get us at leadfeatherproductions.com. And I think just being able to figure out how hashtagging works and finding other ways of getting that, because that's also one of the marketing ploys we've done outside of, we want to talk to experts in the field and people that, review. We have guests on that are somewhat involved in that topic for the week, and we try to play to their strengths. And also on top of that, it's nice to have those extra people on, because hopefully when you tag them or they share it, their friends will see it, and then their friends and their friends. And it's been a slow rise, but we've gone from, only like 5 to 10 listeners in our first 10 episodes
to nearly 7.
We're averaging on average about 30-35 an episode over the last 2 months. So it's slowly going up. You see it going up every week. And we're hoping we don't plateau anytime soon. We're hoping it gets bigger. But it is certainly a large issue that I think every podcaster out there feels.
Don't give up. Because I think you got to build enough content to start to get some followers. And I remember when, we started this, we're like, what the hell are we doing? Nobody's going to listen to this. And for a while, nobody did.
It was just Ian and my mom.
Yep. And, it's fun to do. It's something creative to do, and kind of get to talk to all you guys and see how you're doing. And it builds over time, I think. So just don't give up.
Even when it's only like a couple people, and it's just like, at least I can get these thoughts and these ideas down. Because my favorite parts of doing these critiques and stuff is with my friends, like in the parking lot or at gyms at like 2 a.m. after seeing a midnight movie.
Hell yeah, gyms.
And it's Absolutely. Like there's so many moments where it's just like, I wish I could have had a microphone there, even if it's just for myself. Like I only have to be the only person to listen to it, and I would enjoy that aspect. But yeah, it's cool whenever other people are there listening to it as well.
Absolutely. So really quick, just time permitting here, I do want to run through from what you guys remember. I want everybody to give their favorite episode they've either been on or listened to, and their favorite moment from season 1. And then we'll jump into topics we'd like to see for next year to finish us out. But I will go ahead and start with Neil. Neil, your favorite episode and your favorite moment from I Don't Give a Flick season 1.
Well, I think for me, my favorite episode was probably our Dare to Dream episode. I thought it was very, very informative and very hopeful, optimistic for those who are wanting to get into the film career, maybe in their second act in life. So hearing the stories of those people that we brought on, Carlton, Skeeta, everyone that came, took the time to tell us their story and where they started and where they've gotten to now, I think it was very uplifting. Mm-hmm. So I think that was probably my favorite episode. My favorite moment from this year was probably talking about Christmas movies and what makes a Christmas movie, and the fact that the Santa Claus would be a totally different film if we took Christmas out of it.
Tim Allen was just a serial killer,
just killing a guy on a roof and taking his identity.
Have y'all seen that fake movie trailer that somebody did of that?
Yes.
Oh, so
yes,
good.
Absolutely. Oh my God. Ian, how about you? What was your favorite episode that you've either been on or listened to, and your favorite moment from season 1?
I really enjoyed our director's debate.
Mm-hmm. I remember you talk. Yeah, you've been jiving at me trying to get me to do a second one of those. You're like, I got some more, and I'm like, dude, we'll get into it in season 2. I promise. Yeah, that was a fun one. That was one of our earliest ones. That was like our 3rd or 4th episode.
Yeah, it was my second one with y'all.
Or 5th. Yeah, nice. What would you say is your favorite moment from season 1?
Well, that I'm not sure. Definitely. So, whatever it is, it's definitely you and Gary arguing back and forth.
We never argue.
No, we agree on everything.
Because I just even not being on here, especially the ones I'm not on, and I just hear y'all bicker. It's just like, yeah, this is definitely what I signed up for.
It's entertaining.
well, but every day is a podcast for me because that's all I hear them do is bickering.
Yep.
An old fucking married couple. Jacob, how about you?
Oh, definitely probably the Halloween one. That one was a lot of fun. Just going through who we don't want to see in the back alley and stuff. And then even the one where we talked about explosions. That one was really good. Gore versus explosions. I really like that episode a lot. Favorite moments, just anytime y'all give me shit about how great Hereditary is. It's a great movie.
Oh my God.
It's not a great movie. It's horrible. Fuck you, Ari Aster. Just kidding, Ari Aster. Come on the show and talk to me. I love you. I don't, but I want him on the show.
Oh God.
Yeah. Anytime y'all that when you get into that debate, it's always a blast. But yeah, any time Gary talks about Star Trek, it always makes my heart happy. But yeah, and so of course, like Ian's also his deep dark love for horror and even more fucked up horror regions of films I haven't even seen. I love that stuff. But yeah, it's been fun so far. I need to listen more to season 1.
Oh yeah, season 1's really good.
Yeah, you're a little biased there, Gary?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I don't work for this company or anything. Gary,
how much Star Trek is in there?
Not enough. I think my favorite episode was Antagonists in Cinema. It was our 7th episode. I thought that was really kind of going through and like talking about the main things that are the challenges that the heroes have to overcome. It was interesting, hearing what everybody's take on that was. And I think my favorite moment from season 1 was when we were talking about the top 10 actors and realizing that John Goodman was in the list. It was kind of
he was in the running.
He was in the running, but he didn't number one was Jack Nicholson. So.
Not mine was Daniel Day-Lewis.
No, but when we just did the statistics.
Oh, just the scores. Yeah, that's right. We came up with that was like our 2nd or 3rd episode.
The 4th episode. Yeah.
4th episode. Jeez.
Yeah. So that was funny.
Yeah, that was like a 2.5 hour long one, just the two of us.
Yeah.
Fuck.
That was a good one. That was one of my favorites too.
I mean, I was gonna say the You know what? I'll start with my favorite moment. My favorite moment, I've got multiple, but probably my favorite is Gary stealing other people's ideas.
Mainly just Neil.
You do mine too. Yeah. You just did right now.
That's true.
So
I did because of bullshit.
That's why I let Neil go first in the recommendation segment.
I can't remember which one it was, but Neil was like, "God damn it!"
Yeah, I remember that was on one of the last
3 weeks in a row, dude. 3 weeks in a row.
It was unprecedented.
I don't try. That's just what happened.
That's what happens. Great minds think alike, I guess. Yeah, I mean, making fun of Jacob as my least favorite guest is always hilarious to me.
Oh yeah, it's always blast.
Yeah, that's always great. No, yeah, I'd probably have to say that. I guess not my proudest one, just my constant ability to consistently get the title of somebody's podcast or their movie or just how they pronounce their name incorrect. Yeah. And then like at the beginning of every episode now, since like episode 13 or 14, I've just been like, hey, so this is how you pronounce your name, right? I just want to make sure I get it.
Right, yeah.
I did that with Ian's podcast for like the first 3 or 4 times he was on. And then I did that with Carlton. I got his last name incorrect like the first 3 or 4 times he was on. So Claude. Well, he was in a film of ours, and at the edits, you put Carlton Claude, and then he messaged me, and he's like, "Hey, man, love the movie, but my name is spelled incorrectly in the post credits." We fixed it. It's already fixed. But
we won worldwide awards with that movie.
We got into festivals. We didn't win awards. Yeah, we were nominated.
It's an honor just to be nominated.
It's to be nominated in France and Nigeria.
Yep.
And not get into a festival in the United States.
You know, I thought that movie was ridiculous, and then I saw that movie Skins, where the lady had a butthole on her face.
Oh, that's way better than Skins.
Yeah,
easily.
Way better.
But still, I was going to say antagonist in film because I really love the episodes where it's just super deep and we really get to break down the formatting behind what everything is. Everybody does, and Witcher is awesome. Everybody does reviews on movies nowadays. What I really like about this episode, outside of bringing people in the industry in, is that we can jump on with like 2 guys like you that love reviewing and critiquing films, and we can bring you on with us, and we can just break down story formatting and the arcs of classic stereotypical characters in Christmas films or action movies, whatever, and then try and tie that over to like the history of the time during those films being made or whatever. Love doing that. The actors list was phenomenal. That was a really fun episode, debating with Gary on who was in our top 10 and all that. So that was great. So coming up here, last portion of tonight's segment, topics we'd like to see covered in season 2. Ian, I will start with you because I know you're dying to go. You can give me 2 or 3 topics you'd love to see us cover, and we no guarantee we'll cover all of them, but we certainly will take them into consideration for sure. What do you think? What's some good topics you want to cover in season 2?
Well, you already said it. Of course, I want to bring the directors back.
Okay.
Yeah, I just really like talking about directors. You know, they're the artist, they're the chef.
Absolutely.
But other things than that, there's some other things I've been talking to you about directly. I'm actually blanking on it right now. Can you come back to me?
Yeah, I'll come back to you. Jacob, how about you?
Have y'all already done a one like with the villains? Did y'all do one with heroes?
We didn't actually. I don't know if we've done protagonists.
We have not done protagonists.
Yeah, we just did antagonists. Yeah, I don't think we did protagonists. Yeah, that's a good one.
Protagonist one would be pretty cool. And then maybe one like an episode covering sort of, I don't know, more metaphorical type stuff, like like trauma in like horror movies or like Godzilla's metaphor for like nuclear holocaust, that kind of stuff. That'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah, because we only briefly touched on that in like the sci-fi episode that you were on when we broke down the genre itself over the last century.
Yeah, or something philosophical. I'm always a sucker for all that shit that just goes
Star
outside
Trek
of my
would
brain.
be a great combination.
Let's just jump to Gary. Gary, what do you want to cover? What topic do you want to go over, Gary? Let's. I couldn't guess. What do you want to talk about?
I mean, I like the episodes where we have sort of a solid topic, like the 1960s.
Yeah, we never finished out we were going to do an entire series on that. We did the 1960s and stuff.
And I do also like the ones where there's interesting, like like lists, like top 10 actors. I think that's a cool kind of list to do. Yeah,
you could. How about for like superhero movies, like grounded versus like the corny, cheesy superhero movies, like your Dark Knight trilogy versus your Tim Burton Batman? Which do you like? How do you argue against and for those two different types there?
Right. Yeah. And if you're listening to this and you'd like to hear a topic, just shoot us over an email or leave a comment on our YouTube channel. Make sure to like and smash that button.
At Gary'sAlwaysRight.com.
Yes. www.Gary'sAlwaysRight /
God damn it.
.com.
You guys got them going again. Neil, how about you? What do you want to cover?
I mean, we've mentioned him multiple times in this season. I definitely think we need to just go ahead and pull the trigger, get John Lovitz on the show, just do an entire episode with John Lovitz.
I would love to do John Lovitz.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
I think we should take the time and actually watch some of the movies that we always recommend at the end of our show and do a review of the recommended movies.
Okay. Yeah, just like a little quick marathon. Okay. Yeah, that could be cool.
Oh, by the way, I definitely invite all of y'all onto my podcast because a lot of the ones I recommend we cover on my podcast. So
that you do. It's always a lot of fun on Movies So Bad They're Good.
Y'all do much. Y'all do much comedy topics? Have y'all done many comedy topics?
Not comedy because I mean there's a couple of exceptions. Like we just did Dr. Detroit, but yeah. But as far as So Bad is good. Those are basically really crappy horror movies, drama movies, pretty much anything that's not really comedy because these are unintentionally funny.
Right.
Yeah, I would have to
Johnny Mnemonic. I just watched that. That movie is terrible, but it's got some cool, dumb
Gary,
cyberpunk
to
shit.
Jump off of your bandwagon, just because I remember you talking about this. At some point, we'll have to get into a Star Wars episode. We've had a bunch of people that have come on that have asked to be a part of that. And I'll probably just sit back and let you guys do most of that because I don't nearly as much as y'all. Star Trek, I'm sure, is one that we're also coming up on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would assume that, Jacob's mentioned it. You've mentioned it. Might as well pull the trigger on that. Honestly, I'd like to focus a little bit more on the movie review. Is a good one, Neil. I agree with that one, too. I'd also like to jump in with just fucking corny movies and actors that have stayed relevant over the last 2-3 decades. And I want to jump in like Adam Sandler and Will Ferrell and Ben Stiller films because I don't give a shit how crappy they are. I just love the hell out of them.
Tear them down in a.
I don't want to tear them down. I love them. I want to build them up.
I mean, you could also bring in like the hammier actors like Nick Cage and Keanu Reeves and stuff too.
Yeah, Nick Cage, underrated actor. Anyways, and I want to get back to the decades portion. I want to 90s.
Yeah.
God, the 90s were such a good 90s and 80s were such good fucking decades for movies. But yeah, I would say those would be mine. All right, so unfortunately, guys, we are all out of time. This is by far our longest episode ever. So Ian and Jacob, thank you so much for joining us. Before we go, let's go ahead and just really quick, no synopsis on these ones, but just a recommendation for our listeners to go ahead and take a look at in 2021, preferably a movie that came out in 2020 that you'd recommend them watching, or maybe a movie that you saw for the first time in 2020. Doesn't have to necessarily come out then, but Ian, we'll start with you. What movie would you recommend for your last recommendation of season 1?
Well, real quick, another one that I want to bring up that
very fast.
I forgot about.
very fast.
Soundtracks and scores.
Which one?
Soundtracks and scores.
Oh, yeah. That is a good one. Wait, Gary and I were debating over that one. We were like, what are we going to do outside of John Williams? And I'm like, there's so many other soundtracks out there.
Yeah.
We'll find something.
My recommendation, I actually mentioned it earlier. It's another Spectrovision film, Color Out of Space.
Okay, Color Out of Space. All right. And where can people find that right now? Is it on Spectrovision.com?
I don't know. I had to buy it on Amazon Prime, so that's actually kind of difficult.
Okay. Yeah, they're not too expensive out there on Amazon.
Oh, you know what? I think it's on Shudder.
Okay. Nice. Jacob, how about you? What's your last recommendation of the year?
Actually, it's one I just recently watched. It's actually a documentary. It's You Cannot Kill David Arquette. And that's David Arquette from Scream.
Right. I saw the trailer for that. It was pretty damn good. I was looking that up in my queue.
Yeah, man, I really enjoyed it. I'm also a wrestling fan, so more casual than anything else. I'm not hardcore, but I know the talk. But no, I thought it was just a really good redemption story and a sort of comeback story for David Arquette, who kind of just dropped out of Hollywood, just dropped out of the limelight after winning like the heavyweight championship in WCW, and then just got hated by the fans and the crowds, and then of course he got typecast as a goofball, and the movie kind of follows like his fall from grace and then his return into wrestling and how seriously he's taking it. And it's just a fascinating look into his life and how he just started from the ground up in wrestling as well. Like at age 47, 48, he started in like the backyard of a couple of teenagers, like literally to a crowd of like 4 or 5 dudes, and they're just making fun of him the entire time. And he's just like, he's having those existential moments, like, what the fuck am I doing? Like he just gets the crap beaten out of him by some kids in their backyard, and he's like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing right
now. Nice. All right, check that one out. My recommendation for the final one of the year is going to be The Climb. Was a comedy that came out, was another indie film, came out actually at the end of 2019, but didn't come out in theaters until mid 2020. 2 friends, and it's a look at their relationship over like 30 years. One friend always continuously fucks over the other friend, but the other friend is a really nice guy, so they keep staying friends. Like he cheats on the guy with his fiance, but he's a good dude at heart, just misguided. George Wendt is actually in it. I haven't seen him in anything in a long time. Norm, yeah. He's the only actor that I think most people would know. But it was written by Michael Angelo Covino and Kyle Marvin. And they also starred in it. Really, really good film. Loved it. Yeah, that's my recommendation. Gary, how about you?
Do you want to do Neil first so I don't accidentally steal his?
We can. Neil, go ahead. We'll very nice of you, Gary.
Yes. I mean, I'll go. There's absolutely no reason that you would steal this movie recommendation. But looking back in 2020, the only film I recall actually sitting down in theaters and seeing was Bad Boys for Life. So that's going to be my recommendation.
Was it any good?
It was all right. It closed out the series, at least for one of the characters. No spoilers.
Is it better than 2?
No, I don't think anything is better than Bad Boys 2. So
that's the best movie of all time. Is that what
you're saying?
That's
a great one. For sure.
It gave us Hot Fuzz. Okay, that's all that matters.
That's true. Great movie.
Shut up, Gary.
Great movie.
Gary, you're closing us out. What's your recommendation for final one of the year?
My final one's going to be kind of an old movie. It's from the early 90s. Okay. It's called Noises Off. It's a farce. It's got Michael Caine in it and John Ritter and Christopher Reeve.
Did you see this for the first time in 2020, though?
No, but the only things I saw in 2020 were just absolute garbage.
Okay.
Like, what am I going to recommend? Skins or a Neil Breen movie? No.
Yeah, watch Twisted Pair and call me in the morning.
Where can I watch this Skins movie? You guys are talking so much crap
Go on Netflix.
Okay.
Right now, it's on Netflix, and it's from Spain. It's a foreign film. It's hilariously awful, but you'll like it.
But Noises Off is a fun, lighthearted farce, and I think that'd be a good way to either close out 2020 or start 2021, however you want to look at it.
I think this is like your second or third time recommending Noises Off.
No, this was the first time.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I'm not going to go back through every episode and listen, so I'll take your word for it.
That's my recommendation.
It's a good movie.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, that is it. Final episode of season 1 for I Don't Give a Flick. Check out Jacob Johnson and Ian Webb on their podcast, Jacob and Rhys versus Evil. And for Ian's podcast and Facebook group, Movies So Bad They're Good, Midnight Cult Classics and Camp. For all of us here at I Don't Give a Flick, I'm Johnny.
I'm Gary.
Neil.
And we will see you guys in season 2 coming out next week. Take care. Thank you for tuning in to Leadfeather Productions' podcast of I Don't Give a Flick. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast so that you never miss an episode. Podcasts are available on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts are hosted. I Don't Give a Flick is hosted and produced by Johnny Blackburn, Gary Elmore, and Neil Riley. Executive producer, Johnny Blackburn. Technical director, editor, and audio mixer, Gary Elmore. I Don't Give a Flick is a Leadfeather production. Copyright Leadfeather Productions 2020.